I do want to make sure everybody knows that if you missed a webinar, 1, 2, 3, or 4, they are all recorded and available to watch for the first time or watch again on Central State University's 1890 Land Grant Extension YouTube. We have our own playlist for this series. So as each webinar is completed, it is cleaned up and added to that playlist. So at the end of our series, we'll have everything captured and we can revisit it or direct people to check it out if they missed the live webinar series. I'll drop those links in the chat after the presentation starts. But my name is Denise Natoli Brooks with Central State University Extension. I'm an ag and natural resource educator in Southeast Ohio, and I am so excited to be part of this webinar series featuring an amazing story that's unfolding right here in Muskingum County, where I live and where I work, and in a place that's very special to me. So this evening we have a few people with us. Some will be presenting, some will be available for questions, but I do want to make sure we have time to keep telling our story. Last time we focused on finding the next generation steward for Blue Rock Station. Now we're going to hear from those next generation stewards and their process of how they got here. So I'm very pleased to introduce Sarah Ricks and Jason Ricks.
Hi everybody, I'm Sarah and this is Jason. So we are going to start a little bit about ourselves. So we actually met in 2006. We were both training to be firefighter EMTs at the time. That's how we ended up getting connected. Around the same time, we both decided that that really wasn't the career path for us. And we had been dating long distance and we decided to get married. And we have a really deep love for nature. So we actually got married here in Ohio at Hocking Hills. We went canoeing and kayaking and camping and just had an ordained minister come meet us in the woods. I really love teaching and I love children. So I was actually studying early childhood development and working as a preschool teacher and working for a after school program. And Jason at the time was...
Yeah, so I was working in production, worked up to my way into a continuous improvement role in a lead operator's kind of perspective. So running the equipment, system optimization, and commissioning new equipment. During that time, I was studying lean manufacturing and working towards a mechanical engineer degree.
And we decided to have kids in 2010. Before we had kids, we discussed like how we wanted that to look. And coming from a child development background, I had like really wanted to be able to stay home with my kids for those formative years. So before we had Corbin, our oldest, we made that decision that we would try to make it where I could stay home while he worked full time. So we had Corbin in 2010 and Cora in 2013. I stopped working and he was working full time, but he's always been very active in the kids' upbringing and raising them. And, we've always been a very strong team. And I really do think that's like a big reason why we were picked as the land stewards. I think people saw the way we work together as a unit and could see that this would be a really good fit for us. So our kids are now 15 and 13. You can see them in the pictures here. Corbin really loves animals. He's actually studying photovitalics as well. He's into computer science. But he's actually working, Annie's the retiring land steward of Blue Rock Station. His husband, Jay, actually gave Corbin a really great opportunity to study photovitalics with him and work on becoming a solar panel installer. And Cora is a very talented artist and baker. She is working with Annie to illustrate a book in memory of Norman, who is the Blue Rock Station, was the Blue Rock Station livestock guardian dog. And like I said before, like both our kids and us, we've instilled really, hard work ethic, and they're very empathetic. And I do think they played a really big role and us being picked as the next land stewards of Blue Rock Station.
Okay.
Slide, Christina.
Okay, so I was going to talk about a little bit about brewing, and so Sarah was 6 months pregnant with Cora, and Corbin was a year and a half old, and she recognized my passion for brewing and really encouraged me to pursue it. She's been really my driving force and my North Star, and just the sunshine through everything. And so she sent my application out for me to all these breweries in the Michigan and Indiana and Ohio area. And I eventually got hired on at Sam Adams in Cincinnati. What really drew me into brewing was the creative side and the analytic side. And during my career of brewing, what also kept me engaged was the many hats that I had to wear. Like you had the scientific precision of chemistry and biology, and then you had to be a mechanic. You had to be marketing. You had to have people that come and visit the brewery and kind of show them your passion and talk about the equipment and give them tours and have a camera shoved in your face because you got to do a social media post while you're mashing out the mash tun and doing physical labor and stuff like that. So it was just working with my hands, and it was just constantly moving back and forth between all these disciplines. It just kept it really engaging. So with all that led up to us, once again, like starting out in the keg line and just working on my way up to the ladder, I eventually made connection with a brewer that used to be at Sam Adams. He moved up to Michigan, and he wanted me to come on board as the assistant head brewer. So we, once again, just jumped into unfamiliar territory and 8 hours away from family, and moved into Michigan. And I think that's where I believe was a turning point in Michigan. Our kids were at a stage of going to school, and it dawned on me the separation. So we decided to homeschool, and from there we've kind of built this support together, and to where like we can take on anything that life throws at us and never give up.
So while we were living in Michigan, the kids were getting older, and I was really looking to kind of like find something else to pursue because they didn't really need me as much. Even though we were homeschooling, we were doing that together, and we had, there's outside sources to help with homeschooling as well, but they were getting where they weren't as dependent on me. So I've always been really passionate about environmental protection. I always joke and tell people that when I was on the fire, like when I was trained to be a firefighter, my nickname was Tree Hugger. I was a vegetarian and really into environmental protection. So of course, like, male dominated place, they latched onto that and nicknamed me Tree Hugger. So one day we were on a walk in downtown Petoskey as a family, and I saw this woman gathering signatures. And me being me, I like bolted across the street because I really wanted to see like what she was working on. And her name was Luann Cosma, and she is the head of Let's Ban Fracking Michigan. And I immediately was like, yes, I'll sign your petition, and how can I help? So I started gathering signatures to help, with that fight to ban fracking in Michigan. And I also joined the Up North Green Party, just trying to get more active in environmental protection. And that's actually how we ended up renting a house from Luann. Her and her husband own a large forested area along Lake Charlevoix. Part of it that they don't live on is actually in a conservation easement. I think it's probably the first time I'd ever heard of that term. Just seeing the way they lived, the house that we were living in, it was geothermal heated. They had a wood stove. They had gardens that were like in the middle of the forest.
Composting toilet. They
were talking about putting a composting toilet, and I think that's the first time I heard that term too.
Yeah.
And composting. They were composting and growing their own vegetables and tapping maple trees, and I was like, this is what I want. How do I get this? and I think that And I realized too that, like, you know, my family, my papa and granny, they come from farming families in Kentucky, and they had a hobby farm in Ohio. My papa did, and I spent my summers and my weekends there. And I think that it always had been kind of in the back of my brain, that little itch, but just life kind of just kept coming, and it never really. It finally felt like maybe it was aligning a little bit. Like, okay, yeah, we should buy land and we should do this. So we got a real estate agent and we started looking at land. Luann came out and even helped us like look at a few different properties and things like that. But nothing ever really aligned because it was either we would get outbid, or it was just the risk of how much debt we would be taking on was uncomfortable, because even at the time, even though I had started back working part-time and he was working full-time, living in a tourist area like Petoskey, it's just like the housing is just so out of reach. Like even places where, because we even were looking at building too. So we started thinking about like, well, what could we do instead? And then we started like going back to Ohio. Would that be a better option? So
that's where, we didn't want to give up the dream of having land, and especially where we were living in Petoskey. It was like a very, like where more than half the population would only be there during the peak seasons of summer. So the rest was just kind of maintaining the area. So it was not only that, it was just the tourist part of it. It was just, it was never going to happen. So we realized that. So we didn't want to give up the dream, and in having land and having that taste. We had that sense of life at Luann's and growing our own food. So we packed up the kids and the doggo, and we moved back to Ohio, hoping that the real estate market would improve. So Sarah and the kids, they lived with their granny and papa. So that's what
that picture is there. That's my granny. You know, she passed away a year ago, but that's my granny, and and the kids working in their garden there.
So that was their connection. You know, that she had an acre lot behind her land, and she always did gardening, and the kids always loved to work and help her out, and they made that connection, and it was wonderful. And so they were living with them at the time, and then I was living with a couple, like renting a room in Columbus. Once again, just trying to had the new job at Sam Adams, at Brewdog, and just trying to find a home to buy. Trying to find something, and just kept on to where we were over. Like, it was like an hour and a half drive. That was hard, being separated. And so we eventually just kind of gave up on the, buying for now, and just, continue to rent.
And then we ended up renting for 7 years.
Yeah.
Until now.
Yeah. Slide.
Yeah. Thank you. So in that time period, I actually started working for Ohio Citizen Action, which is actually kind of funny, because before we moved to Michigan, this person had come, like, it was probably like a few months before we moved to Michigan. Someone knocked on my door, and they're like, "I'm from Ohio Citizen Action. Will you sign my petition?" I signed their petition and had the kids draw pictures for them. And then we moved to Michigan, and we were gone for 3 years. We come back, and I started thinking about, like, well, I want to go back to work. Well, what do I want to do? And then this organization popped in my head out of nowhere, and I literally just sent an email and with my application, and was like, "Hey, are you guys hiring for anything?" And they came back and they're like, "Yeah, like, we need organizers. Would you like to do that?" And I'm like, "Yes." So I started doing organizing and fundraising for them. So Ohio Citizen Action, they've been around since the 1970s. They do, they inform and organize and mobilize people around different issues, everything from environmental protection, public health, renewable energy, government and corporate accountability, voting rights, and social justice issues. You can see some of their campaigns. I actually worked on the 2023 Farm Bill and the repeal House Bill 6, which anybody who lives in Ohio probably knows about House Bill 6. But yeah, those are some of the issues that they work on. Also at that time period, I was looking for, since we were back in Ohio, I was looking for new homeschool groups, because that's one thing when you homeschool your kids, you have to socialize them, so you need to find other people who homeschool their kids so that they have friends. So I joined a group of moms who met once a week to go hiking with their kids. And that organization ended up turning into a 503c nonprofit that I am now the board president of. We still do our weekly nature hikes, but we also do 2 days a week of parent-led classes and different events. We do like dances and field day and craft fair. And we also have a homeschool enrichment drop-off program that I teach art at once a week. Yeah, so that's just one of our little communities we have here. So during all this time, finding friends and building community and working at our different jobs and things like that, we continued to watch for land. I don't think there was a day that I wasn't ever looking at realtor.com and we worked with a real estate agent, I think 2 or 3 different times since moving. And we were just kind of waiting for prices to go down, waiting to meet where it would be more comfortable for us for something, and also something that felt right. We wanted something that was going to be our forever home. And we talked about buying raw land and building, and we started looking into eco-friendly and alternative building practices. An earthship never came up, actually, honestly, in any of that time that we were looking at any of that, but and didn't know there was an earthship in Ohio. But we also were studying regenerative agriculture and permaculture and just growing as much as we could in as tiny space as we had. We were building hydroponic towers. We had metal racks with grow lights that filled my office that we were growing in. Microgreens was a big thing because that's something you can grow a lot of in a small space. Mm-hmm. And just trying to work with what we had, and just do what we had in the space we had, and not give up, not let the fact that we didn't have land deter us.
Yeah, because we recognize just because we don't have land and we're living in this urban environment, that we can't work on those skills and just be creative of how we can do that. So it started with microgreens and seeing that short cycle, and that's where it really inspired me and almost gave me a reconnection of that. It was it's like a long lost friend or something. I kind of identified oh yeah, I remember that, and it was very calming, and it really touched me and how that was going on. And so we just started, like she said, growing in containers, doing our own compost, with the small footprint, stacking up in towers, just knowing the fact that we were recognizing the systems around, especially after COVID, how we were dependent on a lot of things and how they were very susceptible to breaking down, and what we could do to help us be resilient and build skills and be more independent. And we started really seeing how community was the strength. That's what was needed, and how these larger systems that are at fault, we saw that we needed to be able to build our capability to help and support our community. And with Sarah's environmental and social justice, and her roots of her family, being farmers, and then my overlap of brewing and understanding the science and the systems, it just we saw that connection, and we wanted to, and we were like, yes, we can be a part of this, and we can help, and it's going to be at a community level.
My lovely friend, Molly Loans, that you see in the picture right there. I love that picture. She is also the executive director of Sycamore Learning Cooperative. She runs Novel Tree Farm in Thornville. If anyone lives in the area, make sure you don't get a fake tree, get a real one, be real. She actually came across Blue Rock Station because she bought Annie's beekeeping equipment. And she found out, was following Annie on social media, and then that's how she found out about the Farmers Land Trust. And she came to me and was like, hey, because she knew I was looking in her area at land too. Like I was looking kind of in the Perry County area. Honestly, I would take anything. If it was in our price range, I would take the land. But she came to me and was like, hey, she knows like my interests in my environment, like my environmental, like she sees the classes I had been teaching over the years, like art and activism and environmental protection and making jewelry from trash. And she's like, hey, there's this place called Blue Rock Station. You need to go apply for this. This is perfect for you.
Yeah.
And I was like, and at first I was kind of like, I wasn't really sure. Then she gave us another little push. She was like, no, seriously. She's like, if I could go back and do something like that with my tree farm, it is the route I would take. Mm-hmm. And so that is when we put our application in. Yeah, so we put in our application. We weren't exactly sure, like, I mean, I think everything that we've kind of talked about in the slides so far, like, kind of is literally what was in our application. Mm-hmm. The background in brewing, the background in environmental protection, what we actually wanted to do with the land. Mm-hmm. I think that Molly saw that and saw the overlap and saw that we were good candidates, and I think Annie saw that we were good candidates, and I think it all kind of aligned at the end. Yeah. Everything that we've been talking about in the presentation so far was in our application. Annie, I sent out an email and asked if, they were still taking applicants, and Annie sent an email back and said yes. And then she ended up calling me and talking to me on the phone. We put in our application. And we also went and visited Blue Rock Station in person. We listened to some podcast interviews with Ian and Christina, which got us really fired up, just so you guys know. Like when we met Christina the first time, we were like, you're a rock star. Because we were just so pumped after, I don't even remember, there was two different ones. There was one interview we watched that was just Christina. And then there was another one we watched. Ian was on a podcast talking to a farmer about the Farmers Land Trust. Mm-hmm. And that really, we were just really energized and really pumped from all that.
So we didn't started talking with Annie and just lining up visits, come out and just check it out and see what you think, let's meet up and have that conversation. And that first meeting, we felt a connection and we felt alignment, and we really saw a lot of things that we envisioned in our lives and wanted for our lives, in the way that Andy and Jay have built this place and put their heart and soul into it. So we started building that connection, and that's where intuitively it felt like we were on the right path. It was like I kept on saying the word, it was serendipitous, so the way these things fell in place, like Sarah building this community, and then them directing us to this opportunity, and recognizing in us that we had this potential, even though that we didn't really see it because we're like, well, we don't have agriculture experience, but there was other things, and it's more, we didn't have much financial capital, but there's other capital that really matters. And so we just started coming out and helping, building the elephant foot on around the earth.
The elephant foot, and you helped repair the roof on the llama lounge. We helped repair the wall to the privy. Yeah. Cora painted signs, and we helped make decorations for goat stock. We met, worked with Sam, who was the farm manager out here at the time. And she was actually out here today. So talk about like full circle and building communities. Like we want Blue Rock Station to continue on. Like when we were at Goatstock, that was one of the things we said. And the people that love Blue Rock Station, we want them to still be here. I mean, Sam brought us a praying mantis nest that she found, and she thought it was cool. Yeah. And she was like, "Kids, can I bring it to show?" I'm like, "Yeah, come over. Let's catch up." And I think that's
all those many connections. It's just like it kept slowly building up, and that's what Christina like urged us. She's like, just get out there, because we were trying to be respecting Annie's time, and that process, and being sympathetic to that, but also to understand what we were getting into, and building that more of that connection. So that's what we did, and all these little mini trips, and it was really just a wonderful experience, truly. Christine and Ian have always been there for us, so we would always have phone calls with them before the Goatstock, and just letting talking about things, and being there to show us the different things that are going on with the Farmers Land Trust. So
there were multiple interviews. We had interviews with Annie. Obviously, we had interviews with Christine and Ian. We had interviews with the vetting committee, and then we had Goatstock, which I don't like. I'm just assuming that everybody on this call knows what Goatstock is. If you don't, it's Goatstock. It's a thing that they hold every year at Blue Rock Station. It's kind of like a reunion for interns, and this year it kind of doubled as a vetting type, I guess, meeting. Like
the two
everybody of the two groups of people that were left in the vetting process.
I know. So and also it was the BBC Storyworks. So we went from like wondering if we were capable of this to getting interviewed by the BBC and wanting our story and things like that. So that really like kind of helped us think through and recognize like, this is what we are pursuing, we're confident in. And the night before this, you see in this picture where everybody gathered, which is you see all these people is people from the Farmers Land Trust, but Annie's community. And the night before, we just got to hear their story and see everybody that has been touched and connected to Blue Rock Station. And it was overwhelming. It was just so awesome in the spirit of just like support and community, and it's just something that not been I have never had any other experience with it, and just hearing everybody's story, and it really it was magical. And so the next day we just gathered around, and we talked about what we wanted for this for Blue Rock Station, and how we saw our lives at Blue Rock Station, and just presented ourselves. So we were eventually chosen as the next land stewards during this process, and it was just.
Did I cry?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I know I did the night before.
I forgot about that.
So yeah, it's just incredible.
And I know I know that Ian was the one that said you want to take a moment and go be by yourself, because I think he understood that we were overwhelmed, because we didn't. I mean, even though I had actually wrote, like, I think even like coming into like that day at Goatstock, like I had already come to kind of at peace with things. I was kind of like, whatever happens is going to happen. And I have learned, like, I would recommend anyone who is like even thinking about going through this process, do it. Yeah. Just do it, because whether you get it or not, it is worth it.
Yeah.
You meet so many amazing people, and you make so many connections that are going to, if this is really the life you want, it's going to bring you, like, it's going to bring you so much, because you like that, those connections you make, those friends you make, the
Support.
information you gain is worth it, whether you end up being the farmer selected or not. So we have been living at Blue Rock Station full-time since August. You know, the Earthship, you know, is something new to get acclimated to. I think that's not something that probably all farmers that are coming into the Farmers Land Trust have to worry about, but it's something that we did. You know, organizing, cleaning, you know, just moving in, getting settled in. Oh, getting surprise pea chicks in the fall, one of which we named Christina.
Yeah.
You know, and preparing for winter out here, you know, life is we live in an Earthship. It's a little bit different.
So yeah, onto that is the splitting wood and the idea of wood burning wood stove and not just turning up your thermostat. So in that time too, it's been nothing but in this whole process in life at Blue Rock Station has been a great support from Annie and her mentoring us, and if we have questions, he's always been there to support us. And I think that's what's really cool about this Farmers Land Trust is that you're not privy to having this type of relationship with the former landowner, which is the expert, right? If you're going to come and learn the land, which especially if you're new, like new land stewards, like the learning curve of just, you know, doing this, you know, doing farming and learning the land, and, you know, each landscape is unique in its own way, and having to read that, to have that mentorship and interaction with the previous person that has so much time and love and spent so much energy into that, and to have that for as a resource is, I mean, it just sets you up for success. And I am like, just very, I appreciate everybody that gets into the agriculture and farming, because after, you know, what we've done so far and experienced, it takes a lot. And I think that's where I see the Farmers Land Trust and what we've done in the life so far, along with Annie's mentorship. You know, like Christina, Ian has been there, like, you know, for phone calls, and it's just like, hey, you know, what do you want to talk about? You know, what's troubling you? You know, you can vent, you can be open, and so, you know, you don't have to worry about. You can express your concern, or you can just, you know, just have those moments of reassurance, and them coming back from agriculture themselves, that they are also guiding us in these networking and connections. We've been working with farmers that are close by, and just trying to, they're affirming our vision. So we have this, like, reading the landscape and understanding it, and they're just like, yeah, that makes sense, you know, and so that it's super helpful, and it's been really great. It's been transformational, exactly.
And we've also, you know, we are directly involved in writing the 99-year lease that we will get once the fundraising, and once we get a Blue Rock Station into the Farmers Land Trust, we are directly involved in writing the 99-year lease. The Farmers Land Trust and the Blue is making sure that we are involved in the process. The farmer isn't just somebody who's out on the outside looking in. They're participating in this every step of the way. And also the Blue Rock Farmlands Commons. There is a board of people that are here to support. That I am on the Blue Rock Farmlands Commons board as the land steward. I am the president of the Blue Rock Farmlands Common Board, and there's just great examples of those meetings when we get together, and of like I'm having an issue with, like, say, invasives in the forest, and one of the board members comes forward and says, oh, I can help you with that. Here is all this information I have on that. And that is something I think that, like Jason said, that's not something that every farmer starting out is going to have, that support system there. So I think that it makes this, even though what we're doing here is very unconventional, I think that's something that is not everyone's going to have, that we do have, because we are building this. And I'd recommend to anyone interested in agriculture and anyone who, you know, that feels like that it is out of reach, or that the only way to go about this is the conventional way, you know, to, you know, try to go the unconventional way, because the unconventional way is the way that is going to help us. What the Farmers Land Trust is doing is unconventional. What Annie did at Blue Rock Station is unconventional, but those are the things that are going to actually make change. Like, this is what's actually going to be better for the future.
Yeah.
And I definitely would encourage anyone to just get involved with what we're doing here. It is really important, and I think that it is, especially in this moment in time, like, just, it brings me a lot of hope to see.
That's
like,
as parents too.
Yeah, especially as parents, like, as parents, and like, just, it definitely gives me hope for the future, that there are so many people that are just willing to come together and work together, even when it's not easy. You know, we are all here for the same goal, and we are all working together just to make this happen. And it gives me really great hope for the future.
Yeah.
And I guess if anybody has questions, they can ask.
So Sarah, Jason, thanks so much for telling your story and for your enthusiasm and honesty as well in that story. I do want to mention to everybody who may have questions and thinking about things that we also have on the webinar this evening, Christina Villa and Ian McSweeney of the Farmers Land Trust. So you heard reference to a Christina and an Ian during the presentation by Sarah and Jason, but I wanted to make sure if you had questions for the Farmers Land Trust, we have that opportunity, as well as you heard reference to Annie many times, and Annie Wormke is on with us today too. We are a small group, so feel free to unmute and ask a question if you have one, or if you have an additional piece of wonderful information to share, please share that in the community as well.
I have to, yeah, sorry, Christina here. That was so good. I learned so much about you all, and it was so inspiring. I was so touched. This has been the best part of having strep throat so far. Thank you. This was so great. Oh my gosh, I feel so uplifted. I teared up several times. That was so beautiful. I'm so inspired. I also just want to call out, we also have another team member here from the Farmers Land Trust, Lee Youngblood, and Lee is who has been working on the lease with Sarah and Jason, and also other real estate things. That's her role, real estate manager, but she also has a wealth of knowledge and information, and yeah, so great.
Yeah, and Lee has been amazing work. I didn't see him here.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So many people.
We talked about the 99-year lease, but yeah, it's been amazing working with Lee.
Yeah.
Like, so helpful, so informative, just so perceptive to everything that you know, in helping write the lease.
Yeah.
It's so great to hi everyone. I'm Lee, and I do have the pleasure of working with both Christina and Ian and Sarah and Jason. And it's so wonderful to hear more of the story and see all the pictures of your beautiful family and the beautiful land, and to hear how all the pieces are falling together for you after, you know, with your whole lifetime. We got a little synopsis of everything, and I can just see the future, and you gave such a good feeling of your experience with it. Thank you so much. It's really wonderful to get your perspective, and not just about your own experience, but hearing you talk a little bit about how much you appreciate the support of the Farmland Commons. I think that's nice. It's nice for everybody to hear about that, because it is new and not widespread enough yet, but hearing how important that is to you will be helpful to others. So I love that. It's nice to see Annie.
Thank you. I wanted to say, I'm Annie, and I wanted to say a couple of things. One is that the story that you're sharing is so powerful because it demonstrates what bold confidence can do in life, and also being intuitive. And so I think the three of us with the kids have used our intuition quite well. And I'm going to say this because when you tell the story, I think it should say that when you called me, I was perfectly willing to say, I'm too damn tired. I don't want to interview anybody else. And I almost didn't do it except Molly Lones, who is the dearest soul and has been such a fan of mine that I couldn't say no, but I really wanted to. And I look back on it, I think I never even asked you to sit down because I got so excited about when Jason talked about his relationship with you, Sarah. And I just saw Jay and myself, and I happen to be the partner for 45 years of the most magnificent person in the whole world. And not saying that Jason is magnificent, but just saying that that moment, I just felt like the respect that he was showing and had demonstrated in his life to support you, Sarah, and the same for Sarah. It just really spoke to me. And the reality is that that helped me to go back and to put together a piece about when we were going to do the final vetting, instead of everybody having all this emotion, I like so and so, I like so and so. It's like, I don't care who you like. This is a business decision. And so let's look at the work ethic. Let's look at their showing up, their respect for each other and how they work together. And that's the reason why you came to the farm to work. I wanted to see how you interacted. And when we had things go wrong, like the dog get attacked by the guardian livestock, how did that all come together? And yet that seemed to just keep going forward. You went with the flow. And I think that I would say to anybody who, as a landowner or as somebody who wants to steward land, that you need that bold confidence, because without it, you will not be able to weather the challenges. Every profession has a lot of challenge, and life in permaculture has a lot of challenges. But I think I know we chose the right people. I see it every day growing, and you growing in the role. And I'm inspired and excited about where this is all going to go. And but I just want you to know, almost it was that close that I did not say, come on down, but I did it anyway. I listened, the universe said, oh, Annie, just do it. It's just one more. So thank you.
Thank you.
And after that, she called and she said, I think we found the perfect people. I'm so excited about them. It was so sweet.
I always thought it was funny too that this is Jason, but I call him Jay. Yeah. And I'm like him and his mom, like me and his mom and his brother. They're the only people that call him Jay. So I always thought that was funny that Annie has her Jay. I have my Jay.
Also, Denise, I want to say once again how pleased I am at you participating in Central State pushing this agenda, because it has such power and the series is so good. I've gone back and looked at snippets of it, and just the whole way it's edited, and also your enthusiasm. This is what it takes. And of course, Denise and I've known each other for a long time. We got to stand up. And as Sarah said, we got to do things differently. If we want a different result, and we do, we gotta do this. And that's why it's also so great to have a support system, not just with the Commons and the board. And just to say, the board is made up of people who, for example, the attorney is somebody who's been a longtime student of ours and then has been engaged in other organizing with me. We have 2 former interns that sit on the board. Women Food and Agriculture Network. I've been a member for a number of years, and I know some of the women that are, joining us from there. So I think it's really valuable for that landowner to understand that whatever you decide to do, that farmer is going to have support. And of course, Christina and Ian are rock stars for sure, as Sarah said. And yeah, I know, oh, stop, but it's true. And so we have this incredible team of people. It may never happen again to have this kind of incredible team, but I feel the strength of it. It uplifts everybody, including Denise.
And I'll add to that's what's really inspired us. Like I could see that the change of the future is this, and getting people access to land and building that support, and like us, just starting out here, that's what we're doing. We're building our capacity, right? And then as soon and we can then help our community build its capacity to reach new levels of vitality and just support. The way I think what happens is when we get into this, when you have to buy land, it's you get under all this stress, and it's to where you start reducing all this, the ecological, the economical, the social. It just starts simplifying because you're just super stressed out, and you're just reducing all of that to your what's going on, your problems, and so and so you're just reacting and sometimes not making the best choices. And I could see that is such a struggle. I could see that. How could you have the bandwidth capacity to just be relieved of that stress and have the support of the Farmland Commons and the Farmers Land Trust and this cooperation, and to where you can. I can't remember what I was going with that. Kind of lost. But anyways,
I think I know where you're going.
Yeah.
You can make the right decisions.
Yeah.
And you can make the decisions that you can make the decisions that are right for your family, make the decisions that are right for the environment, and not solely the decisions of, I have to pay off this $400,000 mortgage, and so I need to, it doesn't matter that the environment doesn't matter. Nothing matters. The only thing that matters is paying off that loan, right now. So I can't take the time to listen to the environment. I can't take the time to make decisions that are, actually working with the environment. And then you might have put something in that doesn't work in your landscape. And now you're working against nature, the environment, and working against nature, and having to add more inputs, or having to do things that may not be practices that align with what you really were setting out to do originally. This gives you the time to actually think about
be more proactive
and actually think about the decisions that are right for the landscape you're in, and for your community
and yourself.
Yeah.
I wanted to add one more thing too, and that is building on that, and that this isn't just an issue. This isn't just a one offer where we have two people coming in with great kids who are going to be this steward. All these people that are involved, this is a domino effect, I believe. And the more we can push this out, this is where Central State is so important in the process, is that it continues to push what we're doing out there, to continue to educate people about people have money, and they just throw it out to things that don't matter. If you invest in what's happening here financially, or donate your car or your jewelry or whatever, so you help with the cost of this, the transition of this farm into the commons, that is a much better payoff in terms of how it influences so many people's lives for the better. I don't know where else you get a better deal than that myself. And I think we're demonstrating that every time we talk about the process. Every time I hear Christine or Ian or Lee or anybody talk about what we're doing, I just think, oh my God, we're just touching so many people's lives for the better. We're investing in all these people. And I just can't see why this doesn't happen all over the universe, really. Although there's only so many hours in the day, right, Christina?
Yeah.
Well, thank you all for sharing and continuing the conversation. It actually really demonstrates the community that's been built through this process, and how this is such a powerful process. And Central State Extension is really happy to be part of this, because this is part of what we do as well, part of our mission, and looking at these alternative ways to do things and sharing what's out there. We do have all of the presentations on our playlist right now. And when we talk about like amplifying the reach, since I happened to look at it today to get ready for our webinar, you know, we have one webinar and some people can join, but just the first webinar that we did back in November, which was introducing everybody to the land at Blue Rock Station, has had 90 views. You know, and the more we share those links, the more people get to learn this story, and be part of it and consider it in their community as well. I do have all of the webinars 1 through 4, not tonight's, but 1 through 4 that's live and active for sharing. And this one will be shared as well. So I have a question for the group as we get close to the end of the hour. You know, this is our first Blue Rock Station Story multiple webinar series, and we put out 6 dates to start out. And this topic wasn't part of the original plan, but it felt so right to have it become part of the plan. Our next date is April 28th for a webinar, which is the last date in the series. What will the topic be for the last webinar in the series? Or has the story unfolded so much since we planned this that we want to add more dates for more topics? We don't have to answer all those questions tonight, but I want to throw them out there.
Thank you, Denise. Yeah, so we are planning to have the next session be that engaging community topic, and then also to share where we are at in the process as far as fundraising, land acquisition, all of that. And if there is ability and interest from Central State, we'd love to add another episode on to the next, because as things build and grow and develop, then the story continues to unfold.
That's right. And we have the flexibility to do that. And I would love to keep expanding on the story as it makes sense. So you just heard it. Our next date is April 28th, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Engaging community, focused on all the partners that are involved, organizations, businesses, community members. If we are done with our stories for this evening, I think we're going out on a high note and good things to think about for the rest of the evening. Take care, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. That was
Thank
so
you.
great. It's so good to see you
Have a
all and be
great
all
night.
together. That's so wonderful. Okay. Bye.
Thank you.
Great job,
Good to
you too. So good. Okay.